recreational municipality, and also the heritage officer for the recreational municipality has joined us. And I'd like to invite him to draw the next number. Recreational municipality, and also the heritage officer for the recreational municipality has joined us. And I'd like to invite him to draw the next number.
The work that we did put into it is not very well reflected in the presentation.
I'll sit down. Very open.
So yeah, when we looked at the historical value of the products or in the house itself, we had many similarities as the other groups mentioned, and the main one was the exterior structure of the house itself, that Gothic revival. We felt that obviously being attached to another house, you have to take that into consideration and everything, but within that, it's the whole building itself, the structure is very easily maintained once additional work's put into it, so it wouldn't be an issue to maintain that structure. We also felt that the fireplace, the stairs, the original lighting fixtures were at the St. Anne's Rectory, could be also reincorporated, and the exterior fascia board? Fascia board, sorry. So yeah, with the fireplace, what we envisioned was, much like the previous group, we'd be able to pull off the gyprock that's surrounding it and expose it. There was some issues when we looked in the attic to actually look at the chimney itself. Do you want to highlight that?
Sure. I went up and I actually took a ladder for the moment. I actually went up into the attic, and there's quite a lot of damage on the chimney itself. There's a huge lean, and I don't know if the house is taking it or it's taking the house, but there's I guess we can call it skew. It's got a pretty good lean to it. So I think what we decided in the end was to eliminate the chimney altogether, because in order for cost efficiency alone, just to get a bricklayer to come in and maybe point that the brick, he would have to do a tremendous amount of work to get that done initially anyway. So what we decided to do, and Keith will demonstrate later, is we decided to eliminate the chimney just from the roof, the skyline, down through that first floor. But we will leave it exposed for aesthetic purposes only, so it'll look nice in the lower level floor.
Right, as you mentioned, entirely aesthetics, that would be the purpose of it. And then also the solar gain that coming through that large picture window through heating up those stones. Also, what we try to incorporate when we're looking at the historical value is the things that we would be keeping in the historical value that is already incorporated in the house. We have to have some sort of awareness campaign. Like mentioned in the previous group, you'd want to have a plaque indicating to the new homeowner that this has historical value. Otherwise, it could be lost, or it could be not very well maintained just because they're, I don't want to say ignorant, but just their lack of knowledge in the situation. Not everyone is a historical expert in these situations, but they can still appreciate when they are made aware of it. Yeah, like mentioned, the exterior appearances would the exterior appearance would be maintained with modification to the windows, doors, and adding an extra awning to that main picture window in the front, just to add some some shade in the summertime when you get that hot sun coming in. We also feel that the majority of the historical value, like I mentioned, is in the shell itself. So when we get into the structure, we will mention that we will try to maintain as many of the shingles that are already there to reduce costs and to more or less to reduce costs and to keep the historical value intact. So yeah, as mentioned, the siding will be maintained as much as the original siding will be left up, will be pulled down and then reused again when the final construction is put in. We do have a drawing that was handed out to the judges of the floor plan, but the floor plan itself will be open to design as much as possible on the main floor to provide adequate heat circulation and natural convection when we do install our heat pump and for the solar gain that will be benefited through the large picture window, south-facing picture window. The second floor will fairly similar as the way it is, with addition to the stairs. The stairs themselves would have been reduced, and we would like to bring it back to the original.
Yeah, I believe it was Joyce mentioned that once upon a time the stairs were a little wider coming across the top there, where somebody had added a closet, a a towel closet for just off the bathroom there. And so what we'd like to do is actually reduce the stairwell quite a little bit. So what we'd like to do is open that stairway up because just for case in point, furniture that is actually sitting upstairs is unable to come into the house right now because it was put up there and then the closet was built. Now we can't get that furniture out of the house to begin with. So how are the people going to get their furniture up the stairs when they do move in? So yeah, we would like to open that stairway, you know, to give it well, at least code. So.
Yeah, any changes would be not necessarily moving walls or anything, it's just that we would want to include the hot water tank upstairs in the bathroom. So when we do, as we will mention, install solar solar thermal panels, it would be a shorter run and it would be closer to the main source of use in the bathroom. So yes, so the interior features that we would like to maintain, as mentioned, is the fireplace, the trim, molding around the inside of the doors, light fixtures, which we brought back from the rectory. And as much as the original flooring as possible, we had a look, and the floor itself in many places is quite reusable and looks to be in good shape. And to be able to reuse that would definitely add some value to the house and reduce some of the upfront renovation costs.
And I'd like to add to that, what we'd like to do underneath in the floor joist system would be to laminate, and I think Alan said yesterday was to sister the floor joists together, and that way the actual original 100-year-old structure would still remain, would still be there, and virtually untouched except for the couple of nails that would be driven inside of the other floor joists. So the actual structural frame and the integrity of the original home will still be intact for many years to come after that.
So the proposed exterior wall, what we would suggest would be to insulate with 4 inches of spray foam and 1 inch of poly on the exterior to get an R30. So basically what you'd have to do is fill that our cavity, the 2x4 cavity, which is a true 2x4, with 4 inches of spray foam, which would act as your vapor barrier as well, and then wrap the house in the external poly insulation. This would add some extra dimension to the house, and this would have to be taken into consideration because of the neighbor's house. It would then be that inch less when you're looking at the siding. I don't think you'd notice it as much from the street view, but definitely if you're looking for it, you would notice it. So maybe some consideration or conversation with the next door homeowner, get them involved, maybe they want to have that extra inch. If not, I don't think that would be a very much issue, and there can be some, obviously it has to be some sort of capping on the end of it to ensure that there's no water or the insulation itself is not being exposed. So this would be our 30. For the roof, what we would suggest would be blown insulation. We figured you can get an inch of blown in cellulose up there to get R40. Sorry, yes, a foot, 12 inches. It's a cubic foot, right? It's a cubic foot, 12 inches. Yeah. For the floor, what we would suggest is to have 1 inch of rigid foam on the bottom. And in order to do this, we were proposing to put the tubes,
The
Bigfoots, underneath. And in order to do that, you have to dig it out anyway. So we'll leave some accessibility for someone to go in there and put some rigid foam insulation on the bottom. And then we would suggest pulling up the floorboards, which would have to be done anyway in order to get the Bigfoots in, and then doing a spray foam down, plywood, and then putting as much as the original flooring back on top of it as possible. This would give you an R24 in the floor. The primary heating source we would suggest would be a multi-split heat pump, because that's located, are they on the floor plan?
They are on the
Yeah.
floor plans, yeah.
So, what did we decide?
We decided one would be just in the dining area, and that would be pretty much centrally located in the house. And the other one would be just above the staircase, also centrally on the opposite wall. So there will be, ample circulation.
Yeah. And then we also plan to have the heat pump itself located on the east side, so with a small doghouse on it, so it would get some sunlight and not would be completely shaded by the house on the north side.
If I could also mention, just back to the floor system that we were talking about with the Bigfoots, we also planned on laying a paper barrier on the ground, so that would prevent condensation moisture coming up, just that cold dampness coming up through the floor and the skirting as well, which would be slow playing.
Jason, you want to touch on the solar panels?
Yeah, we decided to look at putting a two-panel solar array on the house for a solar, or for just a solar preheat to the electric water tank. We'll be putting two thermodynamics, just regular glazed flat panels. This would, as I said, preheat, and we would locate both the preheat tank and the regular hot water tank in the bathroom to, as Keith touched on earlier, would minimize the run from the solar panels to the tank themselves, and that would obviously minimize any heat losses through your piping. And we had a similar red screen as the other group. We came up with a payback of about, I think, 12 to 14 years. So it's not great, but it is feasible and it would be useful.
And the main point of that is the upfront cost of the solar panels, like you said, may not be feasible, but the overall idea of the project is to make affordable housing for an individual or a low-income family. And in order to do that, you want to reduce their costs as much as possible, and this will definitely reduce their heating costs, their hot water bill anyway, and that's what the end goal is, what we're really trying to look here. Also, the low-flow shower heads, taps, and toilet. We would, reusing the old toilet from the rectory would be feasible, and then all you can really do is just fill a Ziploc bag with water or put a brick in the tank, and that would create a low-flow toilet. It's not necessarily to go buy a new low-flow toilet when you can make do with what you already have. But the low-flow shower heads and taps would probably be necessary. Along with that, again, we want to try and create some sort of awareness campaign with that. Don't want to obviously plaster the whole place with pamphlets and whatnot, but another plaque against next to one tap saying, shut off the tap when you're done using, or don't run it while you are brushing your teeth. Any of the sorts. It doesn't matter how many low-flow devices you have. If people run it or misuse the appliance, it's just going to defeat the purpose all entirely. So we kind of combined number 8, 13, 14 all into one, and as many other groups mentioned as well, we feel that a community garden would be a great asset to the community to be able to bring the residents together and also provide some locally grown food. Would you like to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, the property that is in question is owned by ECBC, Enterprise Cape Breton Corporation, and wouldn't take much effort and add beauty to the property. We were to add a community garden, and it would also increase property values, and I think people would be for it because the house has stood stagnant so long. Anything that would make it more beautiful I think people would be up for it.
The whole, when you look at these traditional homes and you look back at kitchen parties, the kitchen itself was the heart of the home, and that was basically because that's where people ate and spent a lot of their time, and the food has a real connection that travels back throughout the ages when you look at any type of community in rural areas. And that's why we believe that developing a community garden can help you bring people back to that, help them learn how to do the cooking and grow the vegetables which their ancestry would have done in times before them. So the skilled trades that would be required, pretty straightforward. Electricians, carpenters, insulators, someone who knows how to do the spray foam, obviously, and plumbers. We already have the general contractor on site. What will be brought back from the rectory